Next up, I'm very thrilled to introduce Serife Wong, who is a Turkish-American artist working on AI governance. She's the founder of the Icarus Salon, an art and research organization exploring the ethics of emerging technology. And in her work, she advocates for justice in AI and more active roles for artists in policymaking. She has a fantastic CV, including residence at the Rockefeller Foundation, the Berggruen Institute, Ars Electronica, and was even selected as one of the 100 Brilliant Women in AI Ethics in 2021, amongst many other honors. Sherry, take the stage.
I can't type my password in. There we go. Thank you. Caps lock. Thank you, Caroline. Actually, Caroline and I have been working on a data project together, and you'll see some of our conversations sort of influencing this one. And thank you, Ray, Barry, Nada, Samantha, Wade, and thanks to my bench of friends for showing up. Thanks, guys. So my name is Serife Wong, and I'm an artist, and I'm the founder of Icarus Salon, which is a art and research organization on emerging technology. It's a bit of a stoner topic today, so that's what Caroline and I got talking about philosophy. But it's what I've been thinking about lately, so I hope that everyone comes with me on this topic. In my career, I've mainly worked on two areas, expansion and connection. No matter what form my work has taken, it has been about these two things. I think of artist activity as art, but also that includes things like teaching, research, or giving a talk. And most recently, I'm using technology to approach AI and data governance. But I also, in reverse, use AI and data governance to approach AI and art. So essentially, this is I'm talking about the cat shaped like a cat. So the cat goes in the bowl, and the bowl goes into the cat. That makes sense later. Conception. So I'm interested in tech and art narratives because narratives are really powerful forces that determine behavior, actions, and meaning. The stories we can tell shape what we believe about our politics, economy, society, or ourselves. Emerging tech shapes our stories. Our stories shape technology. Here's an example. Right? This is a surface narrative. It's not Elon Musk here is not creating the narrative. It's a signal of the larger narrative. This is an old narrative, like the American dream, just anyone can get rich. So we all know how this went for people, right? The market crashed because someone, not just because they lost money, but they lost it. They asked for their lives. So these narratives shape base our policies and laws. So today, I'm just looking at these two areas, tech and art, right? These are the big stories in the past year. Text to image is really like news, and you've probably seen the proliferation of it in social media, all these like pictures going on with AI. And NFTs, like last year, kind of hit their hype stride. But, the narratives that came out of it are really relevant still in this moment. These narratives that are emerging. So that means that a lot of the research and analysis that we do is happening in the moment of change. So we counter the narrative that we're seeing in AI and crypto, that there is this tendency towards believing that these technologies are expansive forces. And I'm going to make a really important distinction. I'm not talking about the technology, the tools themselves, the artists, or the art that they produce. I'm talking just about the stories that are forming around them that helps construct culture. So this first narrative we're looking at is a narrative of expansion, right? So you're seeing all these like headlines coming up. It's mainstream, it's in the New York Times, that you can create art imagery without needing any art skills. Or in crypto, selling art without really needing the art world. You don't need a gallery. The past couple of weeks, we've seen the story of competition rise, that AI-created art replaces human-created art. Take like the main software, for example, DALL-E from OpenAI. It's a simple framing, expansion from few to many. The tool name DALL-E evokes Dolly the artist, Wall-E the robot, but also Dolly the first cloned sheep. These tools are trained on our human-made images, and although new images are created, they're kind of like the result of our provenance, of all that training data, all our own human images. These are headlines of tension caused by training AI on images without consent. Notably, living fantasy illustrators are being used in prompts way more often than famous artists like Picasso. A common problem in like the AI ecosystem are also stories of extraction of ghost work. Those are workers who label the data used by these tools, or otherwise are laboring invisibly, and they make these systems kind of tick. Extraction narratives are common in AI and crypto, but of course they're really common in art, in life. Democratization is probably what many of these narratives boil down to. Expansion, democratization. This little quote, "Picture bots have put a stake through the heart of the myth of the artist shaman genius. Artists are no longer intermediaries of imagination." I'm kind of using it out of context because Arthur, right after, he's like, but the premise here is that the big narrative, the myth of the individual, the unique artist, it's been democratized. It's been distributed to others. Everybody is an artist. So democratization, as it's used in these narratives, means giving people more access. It's expansion, but like, is it reality? Because democratization is a buzzword, and the idea that we expand access through crypto or AI tools is kind of made like a positive trait. They push an idea that, like my magic, access is given to everyone, and it gives power to everyone. But this narrative is a fantasy. In reality, emerging technologies can exist outside of democratic governance. This is a really common part of hype cycles in technology. Accessibility doesn't mean democratic or fair. One can easily imagine powerful institutions defining different levels of access, determining how these tools can be used. Democracy is having a say, and not everyone gets to have an equal say in how tools are used or whether or not they should exist in the first place. So this is not democratization. Crypto, for example, exists totally outside of democratic laws sometimes, right? It has its own systems. It's got laws outside the ones that we've chosen, where we've elected people. It doesn't have government oversight everywhere. And in AI, the fact that you don't need to know how to code to use AI to make art does not redistribute power or allow anyone a means of input on how these tools are shaping our world. And then there's darker stories. These are stories of scale, expansion. These tools are going to be scaling harm. So the tool makers, like in so many other stories of technology, once again claim no accountability. Even if they are used to harm others, create disinformation or propaganda, it can sway elections or cost lives, right? For example, one of the newest ones, Stable Diffusion's license, officially forbids like those kinds of uses, but the code and the weights are already out there. The founder, Ahmad Mustaq, said in an interview with Ars Technica, "We believe in individual responsibility and agency. We included an ethical use policy and tools to mitigate them." You can contrast this to concerns from the community, also referenced in the same article, Backs to the Future. He says, throughout various stages of Stable Diffusion, I have received DMs and calls from people who were concerned by the offensive and horrific content they were seeing on the Stable Diffusion official Discord server. Photos of violently beaten Asian women were the kinds of images people were originally generating on Stable Diffusion at a frequent scale. This is even knowing these results will be public for all to see and associated with their Discord usernames permanently. Many of these people have told me they are still disturbed by what they saw. Eventually, I believe with the help from moderators, Stable Diffusion cleaned it up, most of the disturbing or unethical images they were seeing. However, I was now getting additional messages about the inherent biases of the model. Someone sent me a screenshot where they had simply entered the monkey emoji in Stable Diffusion and got back photos of black children. Was there any work at all put into bias before releasing this model to the public? Here are some other stories of harm we've seen in the past few years. This is outside of the art world. Many deal with issues of power. They're the same issues, you know? The growth of existing inequality. And some people have had the ability to protest. And decisions get changed if you are able to protest. But not everybody has that ability. Not everyone has that voice. Sometimes the story gets inverted. For example, many crypto narratives claim to shift power. Cryptocurrencies may have decentralization as a base how they technically operate, but if you look at it, power isn't really decentralized. Similarly to democratization, it's a buzzword. Decentralization is used in the narrative to mean distributing power, decentralizing power. But again, the narratives make this magic, as if like decentralizing means shifting the power. The word is being used as a metaphor, and this narrative is also a fantasy. For example, until the Chinese ban, half of all Bitcoin mining was controlled by 5 companies. So it doesn't take a lot for big players in the system to control who has access, and they control the market. And to reiterate, I'm talking about the stories around these tools. I'm not claiming that the tools themselves are reductive, and you can find many examples where they are not. There's really good art, you know, as well. And just by default, the tools themselves are generative, so not reductive, they're generative tools. And artists are also breaking those tools to expand their capacity for creation. But these narratives that hype expansive properties, they kind of go counter to the reductive properties that are exposed in the stories. So what does it mean to easily proliferate images from our collective history of image making and art using prompts? The stories around AI art tools are absolutely dominated by reducing art to just an image, a decorative image, a style you can copy. And yeah, we're producing kitsch and bad art scales previously unmatched by human artists, but you know, something else is going on here that's beyond the not too surprising aesthetic of the early adopter. The most dominant NFT narrative is also one that is reductive. It places art as something unique that you can collect and buy and sell. And not too surprisingly, emerging technologies are subject to the same problems that plague the art world: money laundering, the dependence of third parties to verify or legitimize the value of one's art. So that's like museums and galleries or platforms are needed, or collectors are needed to say that your art is worthy. And also the reduction of art as a vehicle for capital. So there's vibrant communities formed in the NFT sector, amazing people, but the narratives of the NFT landscape go counter sometimes to what the artists believe and hope for. So if we look at art, we have spent the past 100 years or so pushing at the boundaries of what art is. Found art, video, performance. Basically, we're trying to push the shape of the bowl that the cats are in. So we came up with conceptual art. Art's the idea. And a lot of these ideas came about because artists were trying to push away from the idea that art is just the image, or art is about the commercialization of something. And it's really funny to me that the newest tools of art are bringing us back to these before times. So these are artworks I especially like, and they're centered around New York City because like that's where I was doing art. But conceptual art was all over, and these boundaries were pushed by Situationists in France, Cobra in Germany, Gutai in Japan, and there's so many others. And they all worked with each other, and they collaborated, they exchanged ideas, and they exchanged art and letters and mail art. So this work is an artwork by a Fluxus artist, my favorite art movement. It's a mid-century art movement, and he worked with the idea that neither the art or the artist was a unique and special snowflake. For Friedman, art was not a commodity or a collectible. but is not simply negating the narratives of contemporary tech that I just talked about, because similarly to text-to-image tools, Friedman's art took place in a space that does not belong to the artist typing the sentence. The art is not the sentence or the prompt. It is this other thing between the prompt and your eyes. It relates directly to art being produced by AI, but then what is the art created by prompts? Is it a conceptual thing? Perhaps this generative creation coming from the training data is the art. So I'm going to give a prompt now. I'm just talking to the whole room. Lately, in the past few months, I've felt a lot of sadness. Things seem a lot harder, and people are really quick to fall apart. I don't know if other people have kind of noticed. There's this thing. It's like a collective processing, not only for our past, but it seems like it might be about our future. It's not just grief. There's a lot going on in the world, and it's a lot. So I'd like everyone to take a minute and hold a moment of silence for whatever you need to hold a moment of silence for. Thank you. So that was an empty space, and we filled it collectively. It was a relationship between us. We can think of it as an art piece that we co-created. Its purpose and meaning was unique to every single person. Showing up in that void was our own experience, our realities, unbounded by technology or language. And even the choice not to show up, to wait, to be bored, to be cynical, there's limitless possibilities right there. But technology, like language, is really limited. The limits of technology are not about progress or innovation, bounded only by how much funding it has, or the laws of physics and hopefully ethics. We can explore the limits of its conceptual boundaries too. Language can be considered a kind of technology, and many artists view art as technology or art as language. Language is a container, it's a bowl. Language is how we describe phenomenon and things in the world, but is not the things or the phenomenon. Those things are cats. These language tech art things are the bowls you put the cats in. Stoner talk. Got it. So hey, this is where it is. Okay, come along with me for this one. So this is a photograph by the artist Francis Reuter, one of my mentors. The words are what he used when he was sharing it on social media. It's a close-up photo of an installation, which was a tent that was flayed out on a wall. So the brush is on the canvas, this orange canvas. The canvas is art, so it's also a tent. Therefore, it's also the bowl. And the wall is the wall of a gallery. So it's also kind of a tent or a bowl for the art that's in it. So they're both holding things, right? And the gallery wall is our reality, the space in which art's occurring. And those things are in relationship, because look, the canvas is reflecting on the wall's white surface. And the white surface is casting light on the canvas. And the brush, it casts a shadow on the canvas and on the wall. And the paintbrush here is like the in-between, where everything is interdependent, interacting with each other. And this photograph right now is being transmitted to you, and my words are right now being transmitted to you. So it's another kind of layer. So Francis's photo is dealing with themes and conceptual elements of his own work. But I'm also bringing in my own universe. And it reminds me of this Buddhist metaphor, Indra's net, right? So in the realm of the god Indra, there's this vast net. You picture like a spider web, and in each individual thread of the net is a shiny jewel. Each jewel reflects every other jewel in there. It's infinite in number. And all the jewels show images of the others, and so on for infinity. And whatever happens in one shows up in the others. So in Buddhism, that's the ultimate nature of reality, that phenomena co-arise, and all things are within all other things. So our art and narratives are really important. We make them and they make us. And there is a reflective relationship. Or as the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh would say, there's interbeing. We are inter-are. So what do we do with that? Art can address the needs of our time. It can start a process of healing, or it can give us a reason to survive. We do not need AI tools to enable anyone to make art. Everyone already is an artist, and life is art. As long as you recognize that's true, it becomes true. We are empty of a separate existence. It is a good time to assess where there is divergence with our needs and our stories, and what narratives we want reflecting back to us. All right, thank you. Cat in the ball. This is so cute. Cat videos. When's over?